Good evening. It is Tuesday, September 10th, and I'm going to call to order the City of Oregon City Commission's work session for this evening. And we're going to do a quick roll call.
Commissioner Mitchell.
Here.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Here.
Commissioner Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Marl.
Here.
Mayor McGriff.
Present. We have a few items on our agenda tonight, and I would like to call on our Assistant City Manager, Alex Rains.
Yes, Mayor and Commissioners. So this evening for, do you want me to go over general business for this evening or what's upcoming for future agenda items?
Item number 2.
Okay. All right, upcoming agenda items, we have our destination marketing organization discussion. We also have our park system development charges discussion. Those are both scheduled for October 8th. Additional items that don't have specific dates yet but are upcoming include the Beaver Creek Road concept plan, the Conema area encroachments and the right-of-way policy discussion, the city seal revision, Clackamas County Water Environmental Services rate differential, the climate action plan presentation, compatible change update, the HRB will be reviewing, Frog Ferry informational update, inclusionary zoning options, the South Fork Water Board, Mountain Line easements vacation, the TriMet Transit Center improvements, and the Urban Growth Boundary Management Agreement. Again, those don't have specific dates yet, but will be assigned as we can fit them in.
Any questions about those items? They're coming up, really, things that we have been talking about, so that's really great. All right, so item number 3, general business. Captain Davis, who's now Chief Davis.
Just about a year, just over a year. I'd like to call up Assistant Fire Chief Brian Stewart to come up here. As you know, you guys requested a work session to talk about fireworks and wanted the fire department to be here to answer any questions. So really I provided some neighboring jurisdictions, their ordinances, and what our neighboring agencies do in Clackamas County as far as enforcement. And really, we're here just to facilitate a discussion with the mayor and the commission, and then get guidance on where, if you guys would like to proceed further with any ordinance or leave it as is. Okay. So I have no presentation besides here to answer any questions that you guys might have.
All right, so go right ahead.
Oh, good evening, Madam Mayor and Commissioners. It's a pleasure to be here. It's great to see a few of you that I haven't seen for a few months. I wish I looked as good as Chief Davis in a beard, but I'm a couple of weeks past fire camp, so I'm all clean shaven today. With that, as I was talking with the chief about this evening and the preparation that he had done in preparing and providing the ordinances and examples from other cities, I'm here prepared to answer your questions. I can give a brief overview about kind of our I guess, perspective and practices, if that works for the commission. So for Clackamas Fire, we serve a number of jurisdictions, some through contracts, and others are annexed into our jurisdictions, such as Oregon City, Johnson City, Milwaukee, City of Happy Valley are all within our boundaries. And then we also serve Gladstone and the City of Sandy, both under contract. Sandy is actually through a contract with Fire District 72, who happens to serve that city. Again, so for us with fireworks and with fire danger, we try to provide education, outreach, and then response efforts to any number of incidents that may arise out of fireworks use or misuse thereof. So for example, prior to sale, we'll do inspections, make sure that the permitting of the booths are accurate, and we'll do inspections of fireworks sales to make sure that those are housed appropriately, staffed appropriately, and have the appropriate fire extinguishers in those processes. And then we'll certainly do our public outreach and social media pushes. And some of those will change depending on weather conditions. So throughout the year, you know that weather changes from low fire behavior to moderate, high, and extreme fire risk. And so we'll push out messaging associated with that. to educate the public about what the risks of any behavior or any activity are, whether it's fireworks, backyard burning, those types of things. And then during times of firework use, which could be, depending on the jurisdiction, typically on or around the 4th and on or around New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, we certainly respond to a number of incidents that are both related to fire and or injury. So that's kind of where we've been. Over the last few years, I did take a look at the the Oregon City specific numbers for fire-related incidents. I was not able to track down firework-related medical incidents as readily, but that's something that we could look to try to find. But just the way the data is sorted or the data points are, I wasn't able to ascertain those prior to this evening. But since 2020 through today in 2024, Oregon City has had 13 fireworks-related fires. So that's about 3 a year, maybe just under that. But on the larger scale within Clackamas Fire District in 2020, we had 6 fires. This year with fireworks, we've had 17 incidents. A high of last year across the fire district was 28 related fires. So there's been quite a span of firework numbers of fires, from 6 on the low end in 2020 to a high of 28 across Clackamas Fire District as a whole, and then probably just under about 3 a year on average over the last 5 years of fires within Oregon City. So those all would have gotten fire responses because they came out of the our response, record management system. So this does not include any incidents that may have been managed at the local level with whoever was on scene, stomped out in a park dust or whatever it may have been. So I have no way to account whether there's one of those, none of those, or more. But that's kind of our response experience with fireworks associated in Oregon City and then across the broader Clackamas Fire District. And I should note, going back and looking at the year differences, again, Clackamas Fire had lower numbers for 2020 through 2022, and then what could be seen as a spike or increase in 23 and 24. But last year is also when we brought on the Sandy Fire District and brought in 77 square miles of territory and another 25,000+ people. And I do not know if those additional incidents are located there. I'm just highlighting the fact that we added additional population and additional square area. So I don't want to try to draw any conclusions, just trying to share the factual pieces there with you. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
So you said that you have contract with Sandy. You've got information from Milwaukee. Do we know anything about what was the situation in Candy or in, I'm assuming not Candy, but Sandy or Happy Valley?
I did not pull any data. I didn't break the data out by city other than Oregon City specifically. Okay. And Clackamas Fire, we could pull data for the city of Sandy. Again, we started contracting with them last year, City of Gladstone the year prior, so we would have to work between different record management systems to be able to pull that. But if that is something the commission would like to see, we are happy to follow up and provide that information.
I just want to know what our, beyond just, right there, I'd like to know what some of the other cities in Clackamas County are doing. I will be honest with you, Chief Davis, I read the Gladstone information we submitted, and I'll be honest with you, I wasn't really sure what, because it says it prohibits the manufacture of certain forms of fireworks, so I don't know if anybody's manufacturing fireworks.
Well, I think part of
what I was looking for is whether this was the sale of fireworks.
Yeah, so basically Gladstone just adopted the ordinance, the ORS for fireworks into their enforcement. But manufacturer could be if someone tries to manipulate a firework and make it into something else. They can put sparklers together, try to make some sort of explosive. So that's a manufacturing.
Okay.
So that could enhance things.
So, but they don't prohibit the sale?
They do not. I think the only city in Clackamas County that
Milwaukee.
prohibits any sales is Milwaukee.
Milwaukee.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I read that. I read the Happy Valley law, and it looked to be the most comprehensive of all. And I think they took a good approach to it. They laid out what is allowable and what's not. They made some exclusions for things that are low to no risk, like the snakes that we all remember as a kid. You light them and they...
Okay, well, I thought this ordinance was LOs.
No, I'm reading this component here under the city of Happy Valley. And this it looks like they were very thoughtful in their approach. I mean, the challenges to this, there's two agencies that will be involved in this. One, of course, is our fire department, and the other is enforcement by our local law enforcement. And if I were to ask you, how many citations have you written over the past few years? I don't know if you can answer, but I suspect it's slim to none.
I know this year we wrote 0.
Yeah, because to effectively enforce,
The law, you have to see it, I guess, is what they're saying.
well, the point is, you're not going to see it if you come down the street in your patrol car. If you're going to actively enforce this and go after things, you got to get on a bicycle or something more furtive than just slide up on it.
Well, couldn't we make,
I could tell you that we had what we've done the last few years is we put, during our overlap, 4th of July is one of our busiest days in the entire year for calls for service, right? Usually there's alcohol-related
Sure.
calls. Most people are drinking, having a good time, so we have disturbances, we have fights, we have DUIs, we have a lot of different things. So it's also one of our most costly, based upon the collective bargaining agreement, right? So the officers get paid extra to work 4th of July. It's one of our premium holidays. So what we do during the overlap from 9 p.m. to 1 a.m., we put a 2-person car to go around and respond to every single, when someone does call about a fireworks complaint. So we responded to every single one that someone called in. Plus we also stopped and talked to people that they may be witnessing or were in nearby. And so those 2 officers did 24 separate firework complaints this 4th of July. They did issue warnings, no citations. They did get 2 warrant arrests during their stops, so they did go to jail twice. And then what was nice is there was no repeat offenses. So our officers, by talking to the individuals, I don't know if they actually saw them light the stuff, but talking to the groups of individuals that were lighting fireworks, we got no more repeat offenses, no more repeat calls for service for those firework complaints.
Well, sadly, it's not a one-night event. It usually starts way before
weeks.
and carries on somewhat after. And sadly, even if these offenses attain misdemeanor status, which I don't believe they are,
They're a B misdemeanor currently in the state
they
of
still
Florida.
have to be witnessed by a police officer, right? Or you have to have a willing
Or an
complainant.
investigation to determine, but a lot of times there's a large group of people, right? Most people might not be willing to say, hey, my buddy lit this off.
Sure.
Right? So, I mean, it's a difficult thing. So our approach is if we see it and go out there and we can address it, we're addressing it. If we're getting there even after the fact, we're still making contact and going and responding to every time someone called dispatch for a call for service.
So how can we get away from you have to see it? If you know the address where the incident is occurring, to me, that should be enough.
It's enough for us to go out there, but for a violation, we have to witness a violation for us to enforce that.
So I'm asking you.
So, right, so if you say 1, 2, 3, 4
Whatever.
Lynn Avenue, they're lighting off fireworks, we have to go there, and if there's a large group of people, and they don't want to tell us who's lighting these fireworks off, and we didn't witness it,
do a damn thing.
there's not much we could do besides talk to them and explain the dangers and the repercussions of what's going to happen if we do witness that.
So what I'm asking you is, can we dispense with the witnessing if we know where the incident is occurring? So we know it's at 1, 2, 3, 4 Lynn Avenue. We didn't see anybody do it, but we know that that's where it's happening, and we cite that particular.
You can't do that. So,
Why not?
well, because if someone called in and said the mayor was lighting off fireworks and we didn't see it and we didn't do an investigation, we give you a ticket, we can't do that. We have to do an investigation. We have to see it. We have to be able to know that's the person that did this to do that. We can't just give someone a random ticket just because it's occurring at an address.
See, I feel we're going to wander all around the block here tonight, and really what we want to do is, the state law is so vague that it puts you in a position of not being able to enforce it, and the enforcement methods are such that you roll up on a group and you can't identify the individual responsible. But when I look at the city of Happy Valley, they took a very straightforward approach, and unfortunately it's all or nothing, but it's not all or nothing. They allowed some of the less threatening fireworks that children would use to continue on. I mean, our goal is the livability of the neighborhoods, the livability of this city. And also we have to give the police department something to work with. And there's an absolute there. You know, is it un-American? No, it's not. I mean, it's supposed to be an American celebration. Go to this next item that's on the thing and celebrate as a community. But blowing stuff up, for any veteran that's been in a war zone, no fun at all. For anybody that has problems breathing, no fun at all. For any pet owners, no fun at all. So there's people that leave town, there's people that put their dogs in care facilities.
Or drug them.
I mean,
But Happy
it's
Valley,
a small price to pay.
Happy Valleys is very comprehensive. It's still a violation. It's allowed their code enforcement officers to go out there and enforce those code violations. But talking with Brian Kersey and another code enforcement officer that came from there, they still have to witness this, right? So, but it does give them the power if they show up there and we can't determine who it is to be able to do a violation. It gives them the opportunity to confiscate the fireworks. So sometimes that will solve the problem too.
How many fireworks has OCPD confiscated? How many incidents?
I don't know of any. I didn't get those numbers.
I've just got
Go
a
ahead,
question.
Mike.
Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, we're just having a
A
discussion.
question. These, there are 2 or 3 cities, Lake Oswego, West Lynn, Tualatin, where it says they adopted ORS 480 into the municipal code. What do they gain by doing that?
Nothing.
Seems to me it's a paper.
Does that help with enforcement somehow?
I'll have to read and see how they adopted that.
Okay. I'm just curious, you know,
I think they're just taking the same language from ORS, the state statute, and putting it into their municipal code.
okay, but does that,
And then making it a violation instead of a crime. So it's just given their,
Well, I wanted to add to what Commissioner O'Donnell said. So it's not, 4th of July is not really the issue because they were firing them off at New Year's. There were some going on in February, so I don't know if people were celebrating statehood or Valentine's Day or whatever, but it's a year-round issue. It's not just 4th of July. And I was, as you said, it wasn't just, you know, it's not the day of. In my neighborhood, wherever they're doing it, a few blocks up, it started 2 weeks before.
right?
And then it was still going on after. And same thing at New Year's, same thing, you know, somebody did it at Christmas time. I mean, so it's not limited to 4th of July. It's the fireworks issue that people have access to them and they are doing this, you know, not on 4th of July. It seems to be other occasions as well. And sometimes there's no holiday or whatever, they're just doing it. And I think that's really where the issue is. It's consistent and it's ongoing. And again, you already listed the impacts to certain populations. And, you know, why should somebody have to leave town, you know, or get out of Dodge, so to speak, or tranquilize their animals because of other people's behavior?
Or be concerned about a fire possibly starting on their property.
Yeah, with the thing
From
going
an
off on
airborne?
somebody's roof. Yeah.
Right. You know, and I mean, I would reread the Happy Valley approach. I think it's a very fair approach, but you can't use the state because the state thing is so wishy-washy, it doesn't put you in a good enforcement position. And, you know, if there's any argument about, well, certain agencies, certain groups use these for fundraisers, well, there's lots of ways to raise funds, and it doesn't have to be fireworks. And people have done it throughout the ages.
Well, there's been less and less fireworks stands in Oregon City, and I think we could have our staff check that over the last 3 or 4 years, because I think on Malala Avenue, there used to be one like almost every other block, and now this year there were 2.
But the time to do this is way in advance of that
So
holiday.
they're not ordering stuff, yeah.
And the other thing that we have is we have an obligation and we have the wherewithal through Jared, who's done an incredible job in informing the public through to get that word out ahead of time so that there's no last minute surprises.
Well, what about the retail stores? Because they, Fred Meyer sells firework packages of stuff, and then I've seen them at Weimart. So we have other locations that are also retailing fireworks, not just the fireworks stands.
Well, I'm going to compliment Happy Valley. This paragraph, this 12-16-030, sparklers, toy pistol, paper caps, toy pistols, toy canes, toy guns. They talk about how many grains of explosive compound and rate of burning. I mean, it's really well done.
And what was that? I'm just turning to, so 030?
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's fireworks prohibited in city parks, okay.
Well, they're just talking about it. But, I mean, the first part of it is the entire city.
City, yeah. Okay, I see sparklers and et cetera.
I mean, you have to give the enforcement agencies the tools to work with that are very definitive. You have to inform the public well in advance of what you're doing, and then you have to make an active enforcement effort and publicize it, because the first person that gets a ticket for an exposure up to $1,000, social media is going to light up, and that word will get out.
Rocky?
I don't even know if I want to start talking about it. A couple things that I'll mention before I get into the enforcement question, I guess, is that even our non-fireworks show in a city park had fireworks this year.
Yeah, and I didn't like that.
Okay, so even we, as a city, already violated our own ordinances just the way they are. So inconsistency, I think, is interesting in this town.
We're allowed one transgression.
Well, it happens all the time. I mean, I can name 10 or 15 times where we've broken our own ordinances in the city and then, have gone after people for doing the same. The firework debate, I mean, I'm down to the enforcement piece. Our chief, even without asking how we would enforce it, is saying you have to physically see someone do it to do it. I know that's true because at the school I'm shocked when students are not arrested for, doing drugs where the entire class says they did it. We saw them do it. They can't arrest them. They can't cite them. It's complicated. So even if we said we were going to, enforce it, what does that mean to you? Does that mean having a fleet of people going out and just confiscating them because we can only maybe actually enforce it to one or two, three people we catch in an entire night of city activity on what the police chief has already said is our busiest night, where they have a hard time covering it as it is. So the question to the police chief is, what realistically would it take to actually enforce it? And is it realistic? Because I can't imagine that it is.
I could say it's probably not going to be overnight if the commission decides to adopt further regulations. And that's happened in Happy Valley, it's happened in every city, right? So, because, right, we have limited staffing. Even if we had every single officer going out there, we've seen the way 4th of July happens in most cities, including our own, is when we're talking to someone and telling them they can't have fireworks and trying to do an investigation there. 50 yards away, they're lighting off fireworks. So it would be it's not going to be an overnight process if
What does
the
the city of
commission's
Portland do?
I'm sorry?
What does the city of Portland do? Do we know?
I didn't look into the city of Portland. I think they've outlawed everything, but I'm not positive. I just focus on Clackamas County.
See, and that's
So
the
I think
absolute that puts you in the best position, unfortunately.
What does?
And what I don't want reasons why we cannot. I mean,
What can we do?
what we cannot, once again, I don't want to sit up here as an elected and say, well, here's what I can't do. I don't want to hear from the staff what I can't do. What I want to hear is what we can do.
Here's one thing that I think was successful, that talking to Happy Valley, 1 year, and I don't know if it was how many years ago, they had an extreme fire danger. And they did a public campaign to turn in fireworks. And to turn in fireworks, no questions asked. And not everyone did it, but they received a ton of fireworks from people coming in to turn them in because they realized the fire danger, the impacts, that kind of stuff. So that could be one approach that we could always try to, with, like you mentioned, Jared trying to get out there and get people to turn in illegal fireworks. But if there was an ordinance that made it a violation, right, that's very specific. And in the Happy Valley one, it is a violation, so they do have to see it. But they also worked with the municipal court to come up with a fireworks class. And so if you got a fireworks ticket, you had fireworks confiscated, you can go take this class. And I think it was 75% of the fine was actually reduced. They still had a fine, but that was something that the Happy Valley worked out with their municipal court. So it wasn't just a heavy fine. It was also, hey, let's educate everyone that gets these tickets. So hopefully in the future, we don't have those. But talking with them, there's some people that just don't care and they're still gonna light off fireworks, even if they get a ticket. And so, those people might need a different approach.
Okay, I just looked it up, so I thought this was the case. So in 2022 of March, the City Council of the City of Portland passed a unanimous ban on the use and sale of personal use of fireworks within the city limits. Period.
And that puts you in the strongest enforcement position.
Mayor,
Yes.
may I?
Oh, please.
Okay. I think Chief Davis is right. It's not going to happen in 1 year. It will be an education process, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't do it. It is a livability issue. Yes, people get upset about, I have the right to shoot off fireworks. No, they're against state law. And also, and I used to say this a lot on the Planning Commission, one of the reasons we have codes is so that the neighbors have a reasonable expectation of what's going to go on in their neighborhood. And what's going on now is just not reasonable. Reading through these, I do like the Happy Valley approach. Coming into this, taking sparklers away from little kids, one step above tying people to the railroad track, right? So I didn't want to get in that situation, but Happy Valley has done a good job, I think, of delineating things where people can still have fun on the 4th. And if they want to see the big aerial things, there's lots of organized, safe shows that you can go to in other communities. And so for me, it's, we talk a lot about livability, and this is a livability issue, and the way it's going now is just not livable for the majority of our citizens.
Well, let me add something here. So you say sparklers, they're not harmless. It says sparklers account for roughly 1/4 of all emergency room fireworks injuries. Sparklers apparently can get as hot as 1,200 degrees Fahrenheit. And it says glass melts at 900 degrees, wood burns at 575, cake bakes at 350, water boils at 212. So sparklers are a problem. They do burn hot, and just because you're waving around doesn't mean, nobody can get injured. So the recommendation on this is safety tips, use glow sticks. They glow in the dark and are a safe alternative to sparklers. They don't have to make noise. So I would have a problem with us. I don't want to get specific to say, toy caps and pistols and whatever, but sparklers are not as safe as people think they are. So I agree with you, Frank. I think we have to go with what can we do? And it's not about somebody's individual rights. I am with you 100%. It is a livability issue because it is a disturbance of the peace. Like you said, people have an expectation that they're not going to, wake up tomorrow morning and find a McDonald's next to their house like you do in Texas and some other weird states that have no zoning. And it's just like people are in terror during parts of the year. It's just, people shouldn't have to live like that. Adam.
Thank you. So I've come into this conversation with the goal and intent of trying to get to yes and to supporting something like this, because I agree with everything that's been said, is that it's a nuisance, it's a hazard to our natural resources, and not to get into the other issues with pets and with veterans. So I've had a lot of good conversations with people, but for me, I'm still not at that point where I think that this is something that's actually going to make a difference, because I agree with what Commissioner Mitchell said about the reason why we have codes. You know, what's worse than not having it in the code is having it in the code and expecting it to be that way, and then calling for something to be fixed, and realizing that it can't be fixed because it's unenforceable. And that's, I think, what I get to the issue with, and agree with Commissioner Smith, is that that's what it comes down to for me, is the enforcement issue. I've had some good conversations over the course of the summer with members of our Oregon City Police Department, whether it be at neighborhood associations or concerts in the park, National Night Out, and I've had some good conversations with members of our police force, and they have been very united in their comments about how they think this will go. And I don't need to tell you what they think about that. The one thing that comes to mind specifically for me is what former Chief Band would say about this issue. And he would say, if you make them illegal, you're going to clog up the dispatch for people calling 911 on their neighbors, and it's going to take away from the police's ability to respond to emergencies. I have a lot of respect for Chief Band, and when he said that at a time for me when I didn't necessarily have such a strong opinion on it, that really impacted my thoughts on the matter. And so I think one of the biggest things that we can do is something that we have done just this last year, which is providing an alternative for people. And I had a conversation with folks from parks, and I want to clarify that they weren't real fireworks, the ones that were blown off on stage. So I just wanted to clarify that. But I think one of the biggest things we can do is providing an alternative for people to do and making that bigger and better every single year. And I'm excited to have that conversation after this. And if there are ways for us to look at strengthening the enforcement of existing state law, then I would be happy to do that. But the same problem exists with the state law as to what we're proposing to do with code enforcement, which is that they have to see it. And so I don't know why we think that there would be a different result. And the last thing is that when we're talking about potential citations, I'm not sure that a citation, no matter how hefty it may be, is going to be all that persuasive to the families who go all out and spend thousands upon thousands of dollars.
Paying for a parking ticket and keeping your car there for another 24 hours.
Right.
That was exactly what it was.
So those are the issues that come to mind, because I do want to see this issue addressed. I want to see it addressed in such a manner that it actually does something. And I'm not sure at this point for me that this is the way that that's going to happen.
I'm going to respond to that. As one who was in law enforcement, calls are prioritized. Nobody's going to take a fireworks call when there's a family fight. And nobody's going to take a non-life-threatening call when there's a life-threatening call. And you know it, and I know it. And the other thing is, we say misdemeanor. You don't have, have you ever made a case where the witnesses in a misdemeanor came forward and were willing to testify?
Yeah, we can. I'm just saying.
Yeah, you can. See, and that's what I'm saying. We're sitting up here saying you have to. No, you do not have to. If you have a willing witness that says, I've had enough, I will give you a statement. Then you can go to the DA and you prosecute the case. So to say that it's unenforceable is inaccurate. So, in keeping with Commissioner Mitchell's thought, I think this journey of 1,000 miles begins with a first step. Take the step. Publicize it widely and start with it. And yeah, it might take a number of years, but I don't want to see people get in their cars and go to Eastern Oregon, to communities that don't allow fireworks at all, just to escape this, and then abandon their own properties and hope when they get back there's no problems. I think this commission needs to do something. I don't care if it's popular or unpopular. I think you do it and you see when you test it and you see the result, and then you feedback and modify it. But I think Happy Valley has done a really good job in trying to lay an enforceable groundwork and define what the problem is and try to eliminate it.
I just wanted to clarify that I understand that there's a prioritization of the calls coming in, and I think Chief Band understands that too. I think the point being made, when he made that point, was that it's hard to make those prioritizations when there aren't enough people answering the phones in the first place. So that's what I'll say on that matter. When it comes to the enforceability, if it is enforceable to do it with the local ordinance, then why aren't we doing it with the existing? Because I would love to see that happen. Because you're saying that it is enforceable, so then we can do that.
We're using the state ordinance, correct?
The state law.
Yeah, well, state law is too vague. I mean, this is nailing it down. This is defining exactly what you have. And as far as, I have to think, about the way the police departments respond. I can tell you, on every holiday is a busy day. You know why? Because you get people together that don't really like each other and you add alcohol. You know it, and I know it, and anybody that's wearing a uniform knows it.
Oh.
So every call day is a high-volume call day.
I think we need to start keeping a list of Frankisms.
Is that not true?
Yep, I've seen it. I think,
Which begs the question, do we want to make that worse?
I
Do we
think,
want
well,
to add on to that, right?
if I could just add on to what Commissioner Marl said, one of the things that our officers experienced, and it's been many years, but one of our sergeants, Office of Fireworks, decided to go into this cul-de-sac, and many years ago, it was probably 15, 20 years ago, and it nearly turned into a riot, right? We had beer bottles thrown at us, we had all kinds of things, we called for lots of officers to come there, and I don't think any arrests were made, we just had to get out of there because it was not safe for us to do so, because probably some family weren't there, that didn't like each other, and then they turned it on us, and a lot of alcohol. So I think some of our older officers that are more tenured officers that have been around for that, that's kind of what they see in some of these big parties. It's not the normal people on the side of the road that are causing the problems, it's these larger groups of people. So we have to be very tactful when we go in there and to address that. And I think, yes, there was a lot of fireworks, but I think this year was minimal compared to countywide. Calls for service for fireworks was down for the police side, including us. And our approach was, I don't know if they saw it or whatever, but the approach they chose, right, to give people warnings and to educate the public, we had 0 return calls for service. That doesn't always happen. So kudos to those officers for taking that time, right? But we also had other things going on, right? When you're trying to tell someone right here, hey, this is illegal, you can't be doing that, and the next cul-de-sac, they're going up, blowing up. So then they go address those. So. But I just want to give some context of what some of those more tenured officers probably were referring to, and I know Chief Band's brought that to the commission's attention before, so.
Well, I get that, and I also know that discretion is a better part of valor in some situations. But I'm also saying, we've got a police force, we have code enforcement. What other resources can we bring to bear? Do we partner with them? I've been there backing up the fire department in my youth, standing by to support them on difficult calls. Do we just have different people play different roles? Some are informational, some are enforcement. You can always go up. You know that too. You can go up, but you can't go down. So, maybe you start with hey, this needs to come to an end. And then if it doesn't, then you elevate the response.
Rocky?
So I think we should separate, well, there's multiple topics within this. So the enforcement piece is one. I think the sales is another. We can talk about that. I'm curious about the sales piece, because if we just automatically say no sales, does that automatically then apply to all the stores in Oregon City, let alone right? How does that process go into effect for Bi-Mart or Fred Meyer's or whatever stores, and not just the
Yeah, that's what I said.
stands?
What about I said not just
Right.
the tents and the nonprofits, because there was actually
But that's a whole separate
grocery
process.
outlet this year. That was that was a for-profit fireworks. That was not.
I think there's in the OAR, and I don't know if we had time to research this, but there is deadlines where stores, and I think it's January 1st or January of every year, cities can adopt like the fireworks. If they do it after that, I don't think can go into effect. There's some specific OARs on sales of fireworks because it takes so long for them to make the order, have them manufactured, have them shipped, right? And so there's
coming from China.
For that piece, that's very specific on a time frame.
On the enforcement conversation, I'm not saying we can't do it and we shouldn't do it, but going to the police department and saying, make this happen. You know, my example working at the high school, some decision comes down, and then in the classroom, these teachers, teachers have to enforce it, have to enforce certain rules, and it doesn't work unless there's a support system there. I'm saying that can happen, but it takes money, it takes time. So, you know, if the police department comes back to us and says, okay, this is how we could deal with this decision this coming 4th of July, but based on our normal staffing, our normal structure, this is the plan we could put in place. If you want to completely ban fireworks and confiscate them, then this is the enforcement it's going to take, and it's going to cost this much money to add staffing that night. I mean, that's the real effect. It just doesn't happen by snapping your fingers. No, now, so if we had but that plan should come from our police department, not just from us saying do it. I mean, give us a plan of what we can do with our existing resources, what that would mean, what you think it would affect. Do we instigate that level up each year? Do we do it all at once and we put the money into it and do it? Because then maybe it's okay, but this puts our police department in a very, very tough situation unless they can handle some of the control of how this is gonna be implemented. They know what they're doing, they know the job, and we risk putting them into a really horrible situation if we don't think this through clearly.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with that. I'm not interested in going boom and then it's done. I think we have a little bit more outreach to do, and I think we have, I would like, if it's possible for you to, either of you contact somebody at Portland Fire and at the police department. I didn't look this up beforehand, and I apologize, but I was doing it now because I remembered when the ban went in, but they have stuff in here that says, please do not call 911 to report fireworks. They got a whole thing on here about that. It's
because they're probably not responding to them.
But I mean, just because it's outside of Clackamas County doesn't mean that it's not valid information. They have a full-on ban, and it would be interesting, this would be year number 2. See what's going on, and you know, I have no problem in having some of our more senior officers tell us what they've encountered over time. Obviously, you were on the street at one point in time, and probably were out on 4th of July or New Year's or whatever event is going. Because again, I don't want this to be limited to 4th of July. It's fireworks, period. Just whenever time it happens. And I don't know, you know, I don't have a long history at all with TVFNR, so I don't know what's going on, you know, with what those are our nearby, you know, fire departments. And when we had our own fire department, that was really easy. We could just, you know, ask them because they were always here.
The situation is we do not have to reinvent the wheel. There's obviously some good controlling laws in front of us that we could model ours after or adopt in full. The second thing is you can start off with your education and get it out there. And you could even start out, if you're a first year, you make X number of enforcement actions and they come before your court. The court can take that into account and say, this is new. You know, we don't want to see you again. In this case, it would be this, but we're going to suspend this and do this instead. We can lighten the penalty. It doesn't have to be an absolute, but you have to start somewhere, because if all you're going to do is talk about it and talk about it again and talk about it again, then nothing will get done. We would be wasting our time.
I'd just like to get a little bit more information. Normally, we do not always have a comment at our meeting, but I know 2 people are here that would be interested in giving us a little bit of information, if you are okay with that, and we'll keep it short.
I am. I'm just not sure what kind of information
I don't either, so.
Yeah, but if you want to, I'm always willing to hear from citizens.
So, come on up and you can fill out the slip later. You can both come up at the same time. That's why we have 2 chairs.
My name's Raymond, and
Is it
my
on?
name's Raymond, and I'm
Thank
a
you.
resident of Oregon City. I would also like to see a decision made tonight, just at least a decision.
It's a work session.
It's a work session, but bring something up to the next city commission meeting, whether it's Happy Valley's partial ban or Milwaukee's full ban. I don't think we need to wait on Portland. I respect Chief Davis's decision just to look into Clackamas County, but if we have talked with the city of Milwaukee, their experience might be very informative because they did the full ban, both for possession and for sales, and they're doing enforcement, and we've heard citizen testimony. We could have two options on the next city commission agenda. One is a Milwaukee-style ban, and one is a Happy Valley ban. And then at the next city commission meeting, maybe someone could make a motion on one. If that one fails, then you do a motion and a vote on the other. But I am going to support Commissioner O'Donnell's just proposal to keep this moving forward rather than just have another work session.
So because you are competing with the HVAC system, please speak louder. I mean, I hear it over here and I can hear you, but it's the two are commingling together.
Roger that. Damon Mabey, Oregon City resident. I guess the first thing I would say is the thing I learned in the military is don't give an order that you can't enforce.
Exactly.
So, and to get to that enforcement question, as the chief said, he spends a lot of money paying those officers to be busy on the holidays. So they're out there doing things other than fireworks enforcement, but if you add fireworks enforcement, that's more money, potentially more officers out there, and a bigger hit to the general fund.
Yeah.
Whether it's his overtime budget or whether it's parks or whoever has to suffer for that additional expense. So please keep that in mind. I would just say briefly, I understand what Commissioner O'Donnell said about veterans not liking loud noises. I was a war zone veteran. I don't mind fireworks. I take them to heart for the joy of the celebration on the 4th of July and on New Year's. Not on the 3rd, not on the 22nd of February. But the other thing that does bother me is the gunshots that I hear in town on a regular basis. And if they can't stop gunshots, which are clearly a violation, how are they going to stop the 1 or 2 or 3 bottle rockets or the mortar or the kids that tear apart the firecrackers to make a big boom, which is a manufacturing of a firework? So if you're going to make a year-round comprehensive thing, the other thing you need to do is, as Commissioner Mitchell said, is education. And I think any rule, you probably need to have like a 5-year phase-in. It's illegal, but all you're going to get is talked to. Or maybe the first year is just, we're not going to allow it starting this day. And you spend a year doing that. And then you spend a year warning people. And then you spend a year handing out tickets. And then you spend a year really slamming them because it was a $100 ticket and it was kind of a warning to your pocketbook. So, but personally, I'm kind of raised opposite. I don't mind fireworks. I don't have a problem with them. My cat's scared to death. And because of that, I'm here saying if you do put something together, I'll support it. But it's definitely something that, you know, I'm sorry, Ray, but maybe they do need a second work session to work this through. I haven't seen the Happy Valley thing, so I don't know how it reads. I agree with Commissioner McGriff about the sparklers being bad. They're titanium. That's why it's 1,500 degrees. A lot of grass fires get started by sparklers because kids are running around in that dry grass and they get sparks in their eyes and all that other stuff. So at what point you know, and I love the snakes, except I hate all the black marks on the road afterward, but it's, so I'd rather you take the time to do it right, but do something. Even if it's, no, we're not going to do anything, that's a decision. That's action. And so that's what I would ask as a citizen, to be an active commission on this issue. Even if the answer is no, it's still action, not talky, and now we're in 2030. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's my goal. I don't believe in starting with just, hey, you shouldn't do that, because at some point you got a truly dedicated person that wants to set off his flares and Roman candles and all. They're going to laugh at you on that. And then your enforcement action will start 3 years later. Start with the enforcement action, let the court apply and take into consideration that it's something new. As far as gunshots, you know, I see those reports on social media, and usually that's almost like a sniper. They don't sit there and fire gunshots for a prolonged period of time. That allows you to respond. I'm not in favor of that in any way, but I mean, these people that put on these fireworks displays, if you drive by the next morning and you see the street in front of their house, it was not a 30-second affair or a 90-second affair. It was a long affair, and that's enforceable. The beauty of this, and I keep referring to it because I think it's so well done, the beauty of the Happy Valley thing is our concern for what the retail stores sell is almost addressed in that, because the retail stores are not selling the most offensive products. They're not selling the airborne products. They're not selling the Roman candles. They're selling the small potato stuff that's referred to down the bottom. So we're not hurting the retail stores. But the big stuff needs to go away. The airborne stuff needs to go away. The stuff with a high degree of explosive content and high thermal energy needs to go away. And we've got the framework of it right here. We don't even have to construct it from new. We can plagiarize it because it's a well-written piece.
Go ahead.
I appreciated both of the public comments, and especially Raymond being able to have a couple of lengthy conversations with you. I appreciated the opportunity to do that. And I think a couple of good points were brought up. First, from Damon, about being able to do this well. If we want to be able to do this well, or at least attempt to do this well, we also need to recognize that we're probably going to have to look at our collective bargaining agreements.
And the budget.
And the way that it impacts the budget.
Yeah.
And then to the point about Milwaukee and looking at what other cities have done, I think that's a good point of reference, but I also would caution that those are not apples to apples comparisons. Think of not just the population, but the culture of the two cities that are being compared. Compare the city that elected Mark Gamba mayor and compare the city that elected Dan Holliday mayor, okay? That's what I'm trying to say when it comes to this was so effective in this city. I think something there is to be said about a higher proportion of residents living in a certain community who may already be agreeing with such an enforcement to be taken. So that's the point that I would like to make there. So thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, well, as we stated earlier, we do not make decisions at a work session, and I think most people are aware of that, but we generally try to come to some consensus on a possible direction. I totally concur with you, Damon, that I don't want to just wholesale after one meeting just say, okay, we're going to use the Happy Valley model, although we've used them before in the past. I do think that it is worthwhile to get some anecdotal information from those who have done this already. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. I agree with you on that. But what really is happening, we're reading the paper, but what is really happening out in the real situation? That's what we need to know. And I've also had extensive conversations with some of our officers as well, and they didn't laugh me out the door. They just said, you know, we need to look at this carefully. They didn't say no, they didn't say yes. We talked about financial impact, and we talked about staffing. So I was fully in agreement with what you said, because, yeah, it's not just like, woo, yeah, and then we do it and it happens. I know.
So our police department could come back to us and
Yes.
give us 3 plans. This plan basically, with our current staffing levels, with our current, budget, this is what we can do. This is what we can do if we put money into it, or, there could be, 2 or 3 options, I don't know, but it is going to affect the budget, and it's going to affect the police department, so they need to be able to realistically tell us how that affects them, so we can make the right decision on how to move forward.
Well, I'm dealing with a state agency right now that, in my mind, sometimes requests for additional information is just a method of forestalling what you have to do in the performance of your job. And I mean, we're here to make decisions, and staff is here to execute them. And are we committed to quality of life here? Are we committed to livability, or are we not? Or is this going to be a topic that goes on, as Damon says, and we talk, and you know what? Nothing ever happens.
I don't think anybody said that.
No, I don't either, and I think we have to
Damon
balance.
said it, and I'm saying it
Well,
now.
he said it. I said,
We have to
I did not
balance.
hear that from this commission that's going to be talking forever. We're asking to
But
come back
for all
with some
those
more
things-
information.
What additional information do you want? I'm curious.
I'd like some anecdotal, real, on-the-street information from Portland Fire, Portland City Police, and from Milwaukee. I'm reading the document, but I want to know how it's been executed in real life, in real time. What did they do? How did things work? Did it work? I don't know.
Well, the first thing you do is you give your enforcement agencies the tools to be on firm ground, so they don't have to be in some vague, does that apply or not apply?
I want to hear what they have to say so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Please.
So, all of those livability issues that we've addressed, also, that we all have addressed in multiple years, go through the budget cycle, go through that. I mean, we know that those things have a budget impact. That's why we said, okay, we want to support events, because the public told us that. So I'm not saying drag this on, but we can't just blanket make a decision and the police department say, we cannot enforce this with the staffing that we have, which we've already heard from our chief, right? So wouldn't you like to know the amount of money that it's going to cost? And if we as a commission and you as a commissioner thinks that's important, then show the money. We have to look at the budget. We have to figure out where to take the money from. That's realistic.
I agree.
And that accomplishes what you want. That's not dragging it down. If you want to put the money to it, do it. But you got to know what the money is.
Well, there's always a fiscal impact to anything that we do.
And I don't think we have to go to every police station around. We need to talk to our own cops. They're the ones doing it. They have a plan, or they don't. They can tell us what they need, or they don't.
I agree.
If we don't trust them, we don't trust anybody. So let them come back to us with a plan. We can look at the plans, make a decision, move forward, and put it in the budget if it's going to cost money.
I don't have any issue with that, and since these guys know everybody in the area, it's a matter of a phone call or two. I'm happy to make the call and ask the question. So do we?
Mayor?
Yes.
I agree with what Commissioner Smith just said. And if Chief Davis thinks it would be helpful for him to speak to Milwaukee and Happy Valley about their experience and what they had to do financially or whatever to make it work, that'd be great information. I just want to point out, as a practical matter, I think this has to come back at a regular meeting, because our October work session agenda is over full already, and I don't want it to wait till November.
Well, let's
So
see.
maybe we can, Chief Davis, how long?
In the interim.
How long would you need to provide us with the type of information that Commissioner Smith suggested?
Being able to get a hold of Chief Day with Portland, I can find out that.
Frankly, I don't care what Portland does.
Right, but I can get a hold of Chief Burdick. I can get a hold of Happy Valley. Actually, Ryan Kersey, right, came from Happy Valley. We've got code enforcement from there. I have a general idea from them, but to get the hard and fast numbers, I would need to probably find out from Ryan, and then maybe more leadership over Happy Valley of what that costs. And then
together a
it would
plan
take a
for
little
us.
bit of time for me to come up with some sort of plan of this is what the cost would be if we need 2 more officers, if we need 8 more officers, right? We're also
Right.
providing security for the 4th of July festival, which is super important for us to make sure everyone can attend. That's going to be safe there. So that's also going to bring in more people from there, bring in more people beyond what we already are staffing. So, but I can definitely, probably within the next couple of weeks, come up with some sort of plan.
Well, if we put this on the, so I already know, yeah, as you agree, the work session agenda for the second is, the first meeting second meeting in October is pretty stuffed.
About our first October regular meeting?
By the 18th, the 7th, excuse me, what day is it? Is that the 16th is the Wednesday? Second Wednesday in October?
Yes.
There'll be plenty of time. I could
Okay.
probably get it before, so.
Yes.
I'll work with the city manager to figure out when we can get that,
Well, exactly.
a work session
Yeah,
before.
our regular
He's
meeting.
probably watching right now, even though he feels terrible.
I'm pretty sure he is, because
Oh,
I'm seeing emails.
Hi, Tony.
Pretty sure.
Yes, go ahead.
So as part of a report, because I think that would be good. It's not just that we're here to make decisions, we're here to make informed decisions. And so
Exactly.
I would appreciate being able to have a report on that matter. And I would also appreciate not just the numbers, but also the honest accounting of how the department thinks it's going to change things. If we do expend the money to have 2, 4, 6, 8 more officers on the ground, I still want to know that it's actually going to make a difference. Not that it's just us feeling good and putting more money into it and not getting a different result. So I would appreciate, obviously, there's going to be some level of subjectivity to it. But that's information that we need to know, that if we're going to be, it's what Commissioner O'Donnell says all the time is about the return on investment. And I think we would all be benefited by having that information.
Yeah, and I, you know, I would appreciate it, you know, the honest assessment. I mean, we don't have to mince words. You know, if our police force folks that are out there on the street say this is crap, I want to know that it's crap from them, you know? And I'm being a little, you know, pedantic about it, but, you know, that's the heart, you know, they're the boots on the ground. And it's easy for us to say, you know, yeah, let's just ban the fireworks and everybody will be okay about it, but there is a financial impact, and that is something that I think we're all concerned about. So I think we've got a consensus about what we want to see happen, and we can do that and come back.
For me, from the law enforcement perspective, you need a couple of things. You need a law that puts you on firm ground. Then you need to look at your resources that you can bring to bear, not just uniformed officers, but code enforcement, and any other resources that you could possibly bring. Those two things have got to happen. And then maybe you look at historically, how many calls were generated last year? How many calls were generated the year before? How many did we not respond to? How many should we have responded to, given the nature of the call, and we didn't?
I could tell you, we had 20 calls for service on 4th of July. We had
20.
20.
Over an 8-hour period.
Over a 24-hour period. I don't have
20
the
over
exact
24.
times.
That's a
lot of
We
calls.
responded to every single one.
That's not a lot of calls.
Well, I think it is, but that's just me.
Chief Davis just said something I want to make sure everybody heard. 20 calls, and they responded to every one.
No.
So they're not that far away from being able to handle
There it is.
something else.
It's just-
Even, it's going to, will there be more
We had
calls
2
from
on the 5th and
citizens?
2 on the
Probably,
6th.
but how many more? Yeah. So we're not that.
Well, I could tell you, I mean,
Yeah, just.
I'll just tell you that, yes, we can handle those calls for service, but remember, those are the only calls for service that we're going to be handling with the fireworks. We also have
The
other
others.
people that are going to be lighting out fireworks too, that we have to address. So it's going to be a tiered, if the commission wants to go this route, it has to be a tiered, it's not going to be an overnight solution,
It's a
right?
tiered
There
rollout.
has to be some sort of,
Yeah,
where people-
no,
Well, and it doesn't mean that those responses that the department made ended up in a citation,
Because none of them.
because there were 0.
Right.
So.
Right.
right, I don't
So,
know the time frame
they
of when
said,
we
hey,
responded, if it was
you
an
know,
hour,
calm
if it
down
was
and
2
drop-
hours,
yeah,
if it was
yeah.
20 minutes.
Well, they were 0 because of they didn't have an enforceable law that they could
Rely
act
on.
upon their arrival.
On the scheduling thing, one more time, we need to shoot for October 2nd, because, remember, we have a conflict on October 17th, so we're trying to keep the 16th agenda light.
I know, we're still gonna have the meeting.
I understand, but I don't know that that's a Zoom
I'm
kind of a
just-
conversation.
If he gets it done sooner, that's fine. I just want to
I mean,
give,
that's 3 weeks.
I just want to give him the fullest amount of time. If
Okay.
he gets it done sooner, it gets on the agenda sooner.
But I just want to say to the point that was made about having an enforceable law, we're still in the same position again, remembering that if we do put something on the books, that they have to see it.
They don't.
Okay, so I'm.
told him that they don't.
Okay,
You weren't a law enforcement officer.
I know.
You know, the laws have changed recently.
No, they
Okay,
haven't
guys, we have now just gone around the barn several more times, and I'm gonna shut down the conversation. We've made a consensus decision. They know what they need to do, and we can talk about this because we're doing a loop. So, everybody, thank
Just
you.
for direction, I don't think we need Clackamas Fire back for that
No.
other work session, so.
Unless he has some brilliant stuff to answer.
They always have
more-
brilliant stuff.
More brilliant information to give us.
We're happy to provide any information that you'd like.
Yeah, well, I know they don't care about what Portland Fire does, but again, they have the experience. If you have a contact and you know something, I would be happy to hear it.
Okay, I'll work with Chief Davis on what we can do to help support that.
Yeah, I mean, I like to look at other people's experiences, no matter who they are in this state. If there's something that we can avoid, that they found out, then I would like to avoid it. Let's learn from their beautiful accomplishments and their mistakes.
Great, all right, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, don't forget to fill out the slip for Evan and give it to him. I could probably fill them out for you, but I won't.
Take 5.
Yes, we're gonna take actually, let's take a 6, 7, 8, 9 minute break. 4th of July celebration. So take it away, Ms. Raines.
Yes, so Mayor and Commissioners, there was a request from you all that you wanted to discuss the 4th of July event for this coming year, so 2025.
So you're gonna have to speak up too, because you're getting drowned out by this heating system.
All right. So you'll see in the packet this evening that there is information on the items that were presented to you in February, which gave you two options. The option you all selected was the less expensive option at about $22,530. That included the food and beverage sales, concert, and the 15-minute laser light show. So really what we're looking for tonight is just some simple feedback on what you all thought of the event and what you would want to see for 2025, so we can pass that on to staff to start planning.
So would this also include us looking at, in keeping with our theme here tonight, I mean, we need to make sure that this is in the budget. And so do we have the opportunity, and our fabulous Mr. Zook is not here tonight to tell us whether we can do some sort of an amendment to that budget to allocate additional funding, depending on where that money is going to come from for this, so that we're not having to have the Parks and Recreation Department, unless they want to, for something extra, apply for a grant. So this should be a budget line item, in my opinion.
Sure.
Mr. Smith is shaking his head yes.
One, we begin budget conversations next year as well.
Well, I know, but we need to make sure that we look at how we can do that. So we're going to do that, but I'd like to make sure that we get a little bit ahead of the game, because we're in the second year of our budget.
Correct.
So that when they do, closer to the end of the year, when they do start drafting what they're going to be looking at.
Yeah.
I agree.
That this is
So I think that's the
budgeted
direction
for.
we
Yes.
want to try to give to, but like I said, I'd be interested in not only the direct grant cost, but the indirect.
Okay.
And also I'm looking at too is that, I'll repeat, I appreciate the staff being able to move as quickly as they did, but I saw that there was a little bit of a burden on them. It was, they hadn't anticipated to do this, although they'd heard rumors. So I think considering the short amount of time they had, they did an amazing job of getting something out to the community, and I know that the community was very appreciative of it. We got so much positive feedback. There really was not any negative feedback other than, gee, I couldn't find a place to park. Well,
Sure.
we're going to have that. Yeah.
Yeah, I concur with what the mayor just said. I think there were questions when this was first brought up about whether this is something that the community actually wanted, and I think based off of the amount of people who were there, even our park staff was surprised by how many people showed up, and that's always a hard thing to predict when it's an event's first year doing something, and so I think that we can only expect that to continue to grow, and I'm glad that we're having this conversation right now, because there was a reason why I originally brought this up a year in advance. The scrambling that happened was a matter of being able to actually then get it on the schedule. And so that's part of why I brought it up again a year in advance. The prior year was to give our staff the amount of time to do that. And I think that given the scheduling issues we've had to have a better dialogue about that they were able to deliver above and beyond what we could have expected. And so I think that this format that we had worked out really well. I think Oregon City residents love their concerts in the park, and having that be a part of this seems like a good way to continue.
So let me just add one thing, is that like a plant, I appreciate the fact that you planted the seed, but this really was an effort by the City Commission to get this done. You planted the seed, we provided the water, and the flower grew, and we have something I think that we all can be proud of.
I wasn't saying that I did it. I was saying that I brought it up a year in advance.
I know.
And it's not as though I brought it up a month before Independence Day and everyone was scrambling.
No, and we had not come to a consensus, as, because I wanted it to be a part of the previous budget process, and it just didn't happen. We had other fish to fry or whatever, because that's when we should have done it, but it didn't happen. So what we're trying to do is take steps so that we can anticipate that this is going to be, a regular thing that we want to see happen. And we do have two experienced people. We have Taylor and we have Melissa, who can, if we need additional information about the indirect costs, because again, it's not just the 22,000, it's everything else that happened, that we had. And I thought that, I will say that, like I said, the only negative thing to me was that smoke that came out. It didn't dissipate fast enough, and, you know, with my allergies and stuff, I was very uncomfortable. I did not feel good after inhaling some of that. So if there's a way we can dispense with that, I don't have a problem with anything else that they did.
Yeah, if we're banning fireworks, we want to make sure nothing that even looks like fireworks is launched off in a city park. I would
totally agree.
The other thing is I think that having it the kickoff of the concert season is great. And the only flaw, and I think that might actually, and I would be willing to support increasing the budget, is to make sure that we have music bridging the gap, because obviously the laser light show started a little later.
Yeah, definitely.
There was quite a gap there, and then there needs to be an entertainment right up into showtime, whether that means hiring another band or something like that.
Or even just starting later.
Yeah. Well, I think, I don't know, maybe, but I think there's something nice about keeping that opening, you know, 4th of July, keeping the same times as Concert Park, and just saying that's an extended concert, and they're going to come down there and eat and get a seat early, and, you know, even if we just, you know, have to hire another piece of entertainment to fill in that gap, I don't think it's bad to have an extended concert that goes into the evening.
Yeah, I think we could do that.
And that would cost a little bit more, but I think that's...
Do you think the band was in the way where they were setting up the laser light show, or that was...
Well, I mean, there's probably some logistics of staging that. I don't know.
So that's why we need to talk to those two folks to tell us that.
Yeah.
I even went as far as suggesting that if that's going to be the kickoff to Concerts in the Park, that, you know, having 6 concerts, including that one, is probably plenty of work, rather than 7. And remember when we used to have more, I was telling Alex before the meetings, I said, when we had more than that, staff was just dying. It just was way, way too much for them. So, anyway, so is that good direction? We're going to move forward with getting...
I would want to have it be an additional concert, not replace the one. That way, if you stick with 6, you're ending on like the first week of August, which is really, you know, still in the middle of summer.
Yeah.
So I would rather see it be an addition. And I agree. I was not able to attend. And the reason I wasn't able to attend was because I had to take my dog out of town.
That's right, because of the discussion of the
discussion we had earlier tonight. But the only negative feedback that I heard was that the gap that happened.
Yeah.
I guess the thing I would bring up, and I don't know whether, I think this might be the right night for it. I don't know. I would love to see a way for nonprofit organizations in town to be able to have a booth or a table and explain what they do, solicit membership, whatever. I was thinking about it for National Night Out, but National Night Out has a different focus.
It has a different focus,
So I don't think we want to water that down. So I would like to see, as a part of this, and I don't know whether they would take us up on the offer or not, but I would like to see it put out there that nonprofit organizations could have a little space to discuss what they do.
Let's do that. I would like some feedback from staff about the whole thing themselves and logistics, because I think the question is that logistic between when the band stopped playing and when the people were getting their stuff finalized for the laser show. So let's see what we can learn from staff. And I think we've got a great consensus that we want to do this. This is going to be a reinvigoration of the tradition that we used to have without the fireworks. Because, you know, we used to do back in the day, we used to do one with West Lynn, Oregon City, and Gladstone. And we ended up being the only game in town, and we decided, why are we doing this? Why are we doing the whole thing? So, and it had to do with some budgetary items as well back then. But
just real quick.
Sure. Please.
And again, this goes back to, I think, one of the greatest ways that we can discourage firework usage is by providing that alternative. And I'm glad we're doing that.
You mean discourage it? Discourage it?
Yes.
Okay, I thought,
And I lost my train of thought when you interrupted me.
Sorry, couldn't hear what you said.
About the pause, and that was definitely an oversight on the part of the planning. I also will note, though, that during that pause in between the concert and the laser light show, there were actually more people coming than there were people leaving, which was also a very good sign that even though there was that little break, that more people were coming specifically for that light show, which was a good thing to see.
Right. So do you need any further direction?
Could I just get consensus on the total number of concerts plus the event you were wanting?
I would like to get some feedback from staff.
Okay, you want feedback, all
Before
right.
I like sign, seal, and deliver that personally.
Okay.
I mean, I have my own opinion, but I'd like to hear from them.
Okay, and would you also want feedback from staff on nonprofits being
Yes.
offered booth space?
Yes.
Okay,
And what were the indirect costs?
okay.
I'd
got
like
it.
to know what it really costs.
Sure. Okay.
Go ahead.
It's just an observation for those of us that saw the first laser light show. Remember that celebration? Was it centennial or bicentennial?
It was our birthday. We were celebrating our birthday.
I mean, the lasers need something to bounce off of, and I think they either used a smoke generating machine, or maybe they did it with dry ice. I don't know, but it wasn't a fireworks type thing.
Well, the first year that we had it for our birthday, I was sitting on that sidewalk that's right adjacent to the wagons in chairs, and they were bouncing off the solid part of the wagons. And it was very easy to see it. It was up there, but there wasn't a lot of smoke or anything like that from that one.
I felt there was.
Yeah, but staff will know more than we are. We will, what we know, so. All right, anything else? Okay, so let's do a quick rundown if we have anything pertinent to talk about under our committee reports. We don't always have to do these every time, but it's been about a month and a half since we did some, even though we had some logistic stuff on our transportation, which was interesting and helpful. So let's start at South Fork.
I don't think there's anything new that I recall. Do you?
The only thing is that we have a meeting coming up at the end of the month. We've taken a sabbatical, unfortunately or fortunately, and we're working on, we're going to be getting information, I hope, on the CIP. That's what I'm hoping.
Have you discussed that emergency plan that came up when we approved the city emergency plan and the fact that South Fork didn't have one?
He has not gotten back to us on that,
Okay.
so that is on my list.
Okay, thank you.
No, thank you. We still haven't gotten the assessment either, so.
There's a couple of things outstanding.
Yeah, I'd say there's more than a couple. Those are the only two we want to point out at this moment. All right, I'm going to skip around and go to Commissioner Mitchell.
I don't have anything tonight.
Commissioner Smith.
Quick update on end of the Oregon Trail, Clackamas Heritage Partners, Historic Oregon City.
That's a lot of words.
I say them all because not everyone knows they're all the same thing, and people get confused, so. There's some great things going on. I talked about our new Executive Director, Corrine Lowenthal. She's been having meetings with Parks Department and our city manager in general about a facilities plan and how that affects End of the Oregon Trail, the End of the Oregon Trail building. The organization is actually tackling a lot of things right now. So the board of Historic Oregon City was basically in limbo in terms of deciding its future and how it wanted to address the future of the organization, and with Gail retiring, and kind of rebuilding the board, things like that. So there's a lot of changes going on. The new executive directors come in full speed ahead, tackling all sorts of things to the surprise of all of us. It is just amazing. So much so that I said in our meeting last night that I think it's re-engaged the city staff into thinking that there's options other than tearing down the end of the Oregon Trail, because there's now a revived hope and effort into raising money and to getting the building fixed. So I'll talk more about that later, but the new executive director of the Oregon Trail is working very hard on grants and other things, working on a partnership with a local company to paint the hoops with no cost to the city, and that's going to happen very soon in hopefully the coming months. There's a lot of things going on. I'll save details when they come into play, but she's fixing a lot of things at the end of the Oregon Trail. The attendance is up. Not only for just regular visitors, but for school groups, things that were keeping some school groups away. For instance, Portland Public Schools never had any field trips coming into the end of the Oregon Trail because they weren't accepting purchase orders. So now they have a system to accept purchase orders. Now public schools from Portland are coming to the center. There's all levels of things that she's working on. The savings in the organization's account, they're doing some investments to make better interest on the money they have. Staffing, changes, board commitments, and board being more involved in attending events at the site and seeking their own donations. So I could go on and on and on. We're really excited, and I think I invited Corrine at some point to hopefully make a presentation to the commission. She's continuing to meet with Tony, and I'm sure at some point the board at End of the Oregon Trail Interpretive Center has talked about possibly having a joint meeting with the commission to kind of give us give you on the commission as a whole an idea of where that organization is and how they see using the building in the future. I think it's really something we should discuss as a group because I think as we go into the facilities plan, that's going to be a huge drive of whether or not we can get community support for keeping that building going and the maintenance, and if there's an organization that is using that building that's ready to step up and meet that need, then I think that's something that could be very helpful in the future of that center. So I'll leave it at that for now.
So the thing that you didn't say is that you guys had a board meeting.
We had a board meeting last night, yes.
Which, like you said, it was on kind of hiatus.
And we've actually scheduled board meetings all through 2025, so we have a complete calendar of all of our board meetings every month, which I don't know the last time we've done that every month, alternating between Zoom and in person. So, things are going good.
Better.
The only update that I have is that last night the mayor and myself participated in the first Youth Advisory Commission meeting of this year. It's a great group of 13 students, 4 returning members, and then 9 new members, because we had a lot of graduates this last year who were unfortunately unable to continue on with us because they were no longer high school students. So this is the second full year that we'll be doing this, and already they had a good brainstorming session talking about potential areas where they would like to discuss potential solutions, and so I am sure that in the coming months that we will have more to share, and that's all I have for right now.
And I take it we've reached out to several people in the transportation arena and still have no answers about the 26th of September.
That is correct.
Which is like, I don't know. It's very frustrating. All right, so I have a West meeting coming up on Thursday, and it is involving the capital improvements plan. I have gone through it, but we will probably have a lot more questions about how things are going to be rolled out. I still continue to ask the question about parity between the cities who are, I still believe, taking more of the burden on the system than the smaller jurisdictions and sewer water districts that are out there. I still feel that there is a slight disadvantage to the jurisdictions, and I will continue to raise that point. The Downtown Oregon City Association participated today in a Main Street training with our Main Street manager, and that's something that's required over time to continue to help us maintain our certification. On the 20th, we will be having a strategic planning session, and after that is over, I strongly suspect that the ED will be coming to give the results about where that is going and what the board is going to be doing. I continue to meet with the folks on the elevator. That's one of my subcommittees, and I'm working hand in hand with Vance Walker, and they're taking really good care of the elevator. So we got the button, I don't know if any of you have noticed, but the button on the bottom that used to not light up now lights up, which is good. And that was a big deal because, people would just keep pressing it because they didn't think it was working. And because if they don't see the light, then they don't think the elevator is coming. So next step is to hopefully get they have a bid for the floor, because I don't know what got on there, but it looks like tar or something that somebody did. And thank you, knock on wood, we haven't had any vandalism as of late. So, and both times that we did, both of those folks, as I recall, Chief Davis, they have been prosecuted, and things have, hopefully they're not going to do it anymore. Our elevator vandalism that we've had in the last 6 months.
Yeah, unfortunately, we just had one, I think, this last week or so. So it still happens, but we got good video. We're just trying to identify
I knocked
some
on
more.
wood. That's not supposed to happen.
It's not supposed to happen, but there's really good video. So if we get it out to the
It's
public,
like,
if we're
why
not
are
able to
people
identify.
targeting the elevator? Good grief. Okay. So, MPAC is going to be meeting, I believe we have a special meeting tomorrow involving the urban growth recommendations, and I will have to send in my comments because I'm going to be occupied with 9/11 activities tomorrow. So I'll see if I can at least get some comments in there. As you know, we're going to be moving forward with the DMO discussion coming up, so we should probably just take this stakeholders group off there because that's not happening. Willamette Falls and Landings Heritage, I don't know if you've been across the river, but the windows are now in, at least partially in, on the old City Hall, and so when you come across, it's not covered in plastic anymore. So that is moving along really nicely, and of course, as you can well imagine, it's, there's additional costs that weren't anticipated because of delays, and I think I told you last time they found some asbestos upstairs on the second floor, which they tested, but it didn't show up, and so it was something underneath, many layers of flooring. Willamette Falls Legacy Project, we have not had any further contact with them since Tony and I and Alex had a meeting with the new executive director, Kate Brown. What we hope to do is get before them the legislation that the heritage area is looking at to create a heritage area, and they will be coming to one of our meetings, I believe, on the 2nd to do a presentation again on the revisions to the legislation and get our support for moving that forward. The Locks Authority, I reported on that last time. We will not have a meeting until next month, because we just had one. And that is all I have, other than, let's see, oh, yes, let me give you a quick update on the courthouse ad hoc committee. So I attended the commissioners' meeting this morning to be in support of their staff on that committee. So the commissioners have approved that. The members of that committee will be as follows for the record, just so you know. It's myself and James Graham representing Oregon City. I'm asking Chair Smith if I can add as an advisor. I have an architect who's on our planning commission that I would like to have attend as an advisor to myself and Mr. Graham. They have experience in this particular area. Representing the Oregon City Business Alliance will be Jeff Schaefer, who's their treasurer, who's also the CFO at the college. From the Oregon City Chamber of Commerce, it will be former executive director Victoria Meinig. And from the Oregon City Downtown Association, it will be Juliana Allen. From the county commissioners, they will be represented by Commissioner Martha Schrader and Chair Smith. and then Laura Edmondson, who is their Economic Development Manager. Our next project will be to do a after-hours tour of the courthouse, as you know, because it is a sensitive federal and state agency and area. We cannot go in during the day and, get a tour, so we're going to be doing it after hours, and that tour is limited to those committee members because there's only a certain number of people we are allowed to even have in there. So getting this tour, I think, is a coup, because what I am hoping is that this will give everyone a grounding on, we'll all be on the same playing field in terms of what they saw, what they will experience, and what it kind of looks like. And it's been a while since I have been through the courthouse. I think the last time I did was when I was working for the city, and we were in there after hours. I can't even remember what we were doing there, but I was there with Clark Polton, our former fire marshal, and chief of police at the time, and some other staff. And we were looking at, I know we were looking at something with regard to the structure. So that's what I have on that, and I will keep you guys posted. Yes, sir.
Just really quickly, and this is something that I meant to bring up earlier at an earlier meeting, but I just wanted to note that it is a good month to be an Oregonian because it is once again a crime to possess hard drugs. And so I am looking forward to seeing how that plays out on our streets, and we have very high hopes for giving this tool back to our law enforcement, and hopefully we will see some changes moving forward. So I just wanted to say that.
So how close are we to having our community court set up?
That's a really good question.
Oh, I don't mean a precise time and minute, but, are we 3 months away, 6 months away?
I would say not probably till after the first year. By the time
okay.
IGAs, people are hired in place, I would say not till after the first year.
Yeah, because you mentioned before that we've got a couple hires we need to do, right, for that?
Yep. The judge is working on that. She submitted stuff to the county this last week, I believe.
Yeah.
Or today. So things are coming along. It's just there's multiple people that applied for multiple grants, and so they're trying to implement all those at one time. So the police department's still working on theirs. I think we'll get our position probably, because it's going to mirror Milwaukee PD's, it's going to be very similar to that. I think we can get that position, but that still won't be till probably a couple months from now. But we're still working on that IGA, so.
Yeah. Well, I just want you to know, for me personally, that I am so appreciative of the leadership that our city and your department is taking in doing this. I spend, probably a couple of hours a week looking at questions from the Oregon Mayors Association listserv, and how are you guys doing this? We hear you're doing this, and so I've told them that we are in the process of getting this started, and that, their chiefs should reach out to you rather than, the mayor shouldn't be calling you, but their chief can, these cities. So I think this is a testament to the forward thinking that your department has done since my association, which goes a long way back, and I just can't tell you how proud I am, and that we are able to take some steps that other jurisdictions maybe are not willing to, or maybe they're holding back because they want to see if it works first. But we've always been at the forefront of these things, and it's really good to know that. And so I'm hoping at some point in time we can have a little bit further discussion about how you think it's going to work. And I wouldn't mind, because DA Wentworth, he likes to come in and talk about what they're doing, and so maybe we could do a double team where they can talk about how they anticipate and I don't know who came up with the word deflection. It's one of those weird words that, because, you think about the literal term of, deflection. So anyway, I've been reading about it, but it would be interesting just to hear from him and one of his staff maybe, because he asked me at Neighbors Night, I said, when are you going to have me come to the commission? I said, you're welcome anytime.
Yeah, I could talk to DA Wentworth and probably Deputy District Attorney Bill Stewart, who's the one that's overseeing the program. They probably can come in. In fact, Bill Stewart reached out to me today to find out if we had actually cited anyone yet for deflection. And so
yes.
Currently we have not, to my knowledge. So we're just double checking. I was on vacation, so granted it's new. It's only a few weeks.
Yeah, I've been reading about there's been maybe a half a dozen in Portland, because they've been reporting on it in the Oregonian. I also think they did a little report in Willamette Week about that particular program. So some people have taken up it, and other people have said, I don't want to do it, and then I guess it's do not pass, go.
Yeah, we're all trained up, we're ready to go if we find someone that meets that criteria. I think it could be a good opportunity for those individuals that are struggling with addiction.
Right. So I just wanted to add one more thing too, that I appreciate Commissioner Mitchell stepping up. I know that we hopefully we'll be considering, I know you have an interest in speaking with the Homeless Coalition about us having some representation on there so that we have better communication. I know that they held a meeting last Thursday at the Outpost there at the end of the block there on Main Street with some more downtown business owners. I don't know how many folks showed up because I haven't been able to circle back to see what the comment was, but I was asked, was I attending, and I said, unfortunately, I already had like 4 conflicts at that particular time, but thank you for pushing that, and we will see what we can do with that, and hopefully their board will think that that's a valuable addition. Anything else, gentlemen?
Commissioner Marl that started that idea.
Yeah, well, the idea came from somewhere, so anyway, okay, let's adjourn. Thank you, gentlemen.